Yeah, I can start, of course.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
okay. Whenever a devotee passes away, this world becomes a little more unfortunate. Jumnya Swami.
He said that here in the Philadelphia temple. He came and we were having a memorial service for a devotee who died, and he said that, and I just thought that was a beautiful way to
Mhm.
say it. Yeah. It's like another light goes out on this planet when a devotee leaves.
Yeah, little by little.
Yes.
Little by
Yeah.
little, yeah. Caring for a friend or family member can be exhausting work that unfortunately does not abruptly end when with the death of that loved one. Those who are left behind must endure and work through their grief in order to successfully emerge from such a deep loss. Reaching a healthy resolution, either for oneself or assisting others to do so, can be difficult. If left uncompleted, however, it can result in unfinished business that may need to be sorted out later on. As a society of devotees, we are blessed with the understanding of the Krishna conscious philosophy. Daily, we strive to increase our devotion to Lord Krishna while simultaneously endeavoring to diminish our attachments to this material world. The process is sublime but requires great determination and effort. Just as we gain strength from the association of other Vaishnavas in our attempt, we also require support from the community of devotees at a time of great loss. Never was this clearer when the following incident occurred. In the early 1970s, while in the Los Angeles temple, I learned of a god sister who, seemingly without warning, took her own life. Her husband, also an initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada, was later asked why he moved away from our society of devotees. He replied, because my wife committed suicide and no one bothered to ask me how I was feeling. Obviously, abandonment of a Vaishnav during a time of bereavement can cause devastating hurt and isolation. Once again, we look to Srila Prabhupada for guidance in this matter. After his childhood friend and classmate passed away, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter dated September the 12th, 1976. Naturally, I am very, very sorry to learn about the death news of your father, my beloved friend. So offer your mother my condolences for the bereavement, but there is nothing that can be done to be very sorry for. According to the Bhagavad Gita, your father has not died, he has changed his body. Na hanyate ya hanyamane sarir, Bhagavad Gita 220. Certainly I shall pray to Krishna for his better situation in the next life. Because losing a friend or family member can be a time of great distress. The bereaved may be eager to hear about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Similarly, those who do not practice Krishna consciousness may also become receptive to hearing about the Lord during a time of great sorrow. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada writes, when a relative dies, one certainly becomes very much interested in philosophy. But when the funeral ceremony is over, one again becomes attentive to materialism. The technical term for this attitude of materialistic person is smasana vairagya, or detachment in a cemetery or place of cremation. As, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, four classes of men receive an understanding of spiritual life and God. Arta, the distressed; Jinyasu, the inquisitive; Artathi, one who desires material gains; and Jnani, one who is searching for knowledge. Especially one who is very much distressed by material condition, one becomes interested in God. Therefore, Kunti Devi said in her prayers to Krishna that she preferred distress to a happy mood of life. In the material world, one who is who is happy forgets Krishna or God, but sometimes, if one is actually pious but in distress, he remembers Krishna. For a devotee, distress is an opportunity to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly. Srimad Bhagavatam 7-61. Naturally, as Vaishnavas, we want to ease the spiritual pain of the bereaved by speaking about the absolute truth, which will ultimately relieve all material distress. But we must be sensitive to their grief and express our compassion for their loss, as exemplified by Srila Prabhupada in the above letter. Understanding the grief reaction. Grief is sometimes described as an emotional reaction to a great loss, while mourning is how one exhibits those feelings of grief. Grieving is a natural process that is necessary in order to heal from the intense feelings of sadness that occur when losing a loved one. Each person will exhibit this sense of loss differently and must evolve in his own way. Therefore, no time restraints or expectations should ever be placed on the bereaved. For some, the amount of grief work to be done after death of a loved one often depends on how much of the process was worked through prior to the death. Still, a person may experience tremendous emotional struggle when the loss actually occurs. Other factors affecting the grief process include the age of the survivor, child, young adult, adult, and elderly adult. The cause of the death, long-term painful death, violent accidental death, suicide, peaceful, painful death. The nature of the relationship between the bereaved and the deceased, the support system of the bereaved, and the emotional and spiritual health of the person left behind. Loved ones can express initial feelings of shock and disbelief after months or even years of anticipating someone's death. For some, the subsequent grief that is often experienced after losing a dear friend or family member can be one of the most traumatic events in one's life. However, with a significant support system or even one caring person, the bereaved can emerge from this trauma more emotionally and spiritually healthy. Based on the theories of grief, experts such as William Worden, there are 3 tasks to resolving the loss of someone dear to us. The first task is to understand that the person is actually gone. The second task is to allow oneself to feel the deep emotions that follow such a loss. These feelings may include denial, anger, guilt, fear, and sorrow. The third task of grief is to reinvest in one's life and to connect with others. There are over 70 signs and symptoms associated with grief that are characterized into feelings, such as fear or guilt or loneliness, thoughts such as disbelief or confusion, physical sensations such as tremors or headaches, and behaviors such as crying or social withdrawal. Again, the grief reaction is individual, but the following timeline of critical periods may help when assisting the bereaved to achieve a successful outcome. Usually within the first 24 to 48 hours after death, the bereaved begin to feel the initial impact of the reality of death, sometimes simultaneous with a sense of disbelief. Mild depression or feelings of sadness, anger, or guilt are often expressed during the first week. The most difficult period of adjustment for the bereaved usually occurs within 6 to 8 weeks after a death. Loved ones may feel a sense of loneliness as a routine of coming home to an empty house becomes a reality. Increased depression and anxiety may cause an inability to sleep, weakness and fatigue, mood changes which often include excessive crying, change in eating habits, either lack of interest in food or overeating, confusion, and decreased memory and concentration. Significant events such as a holiday may cause the sudden onset of these or other signs and symptoms by one who is grieving a loss. A more severe depression may occur approximately 6 months after the death of a loved one. The 1-year anniversary of a loved one's death, the birthday of the deceased, a special holiday, or other significant reminder may cause a mild recurrence of depression. For some, the bereaved period may continue 1 to 2 years or longer after the death of a loved one. Resolution of grief takes place when healthy grief work leads one to fully accept and manage one's loss. Some grief counsellors consider the most important grief work to take place up to 2 years after the death of a loved one. A word about excessive grief. Excessive grief involves a prolonged chronic bereavement period in which those experiencing a loss have not successfully progressed through a healthy mourning process. Grief becomes excessive when commonly expressed fears become phobias, when temporary helplessness turns into extended hopelessness, and feelings of guilt become suicidal ideations, and when sadness becomes lingering despair. Early intervention by a professional grief counsellor may help to prevent such an extreme situation. If a hospice was involved in caring for the deceased and his family, bereavement support groups and grief counselling is usually offered up to 13 months after a loved one has passed away. A word about insufficient grief. Many factors may contribute to one's inability to sufficiently grieve or not grieve at all after a loss. One's personality, such as intolerance to extreme emotional shifts, or one's unwillingness to admit feelings of vulnerability, even to oneself, may play a significant role. Similarly, a history of multiple losses and the emotional protection that often results can be a contributing factor. The lack of a support system, as well as a social network that diminishes one's loss through awkward silence, may also affect a healthy outcome for the bereaved. With the significant presence of insufficient grief, the bereaved may appear unaffected by his or her loss. Signs and symptoms of grief may appear many years later. However, when triggered by another significant loss, again, a professional grief counsellor can be of great benefit.
Does anybody know why hospice usually offers 13 months of bereavement care? Counseling for the bereaved rather than a year?
Because of the, I think just as we talked about, like the anniversary of the bereavement.
Yes, yeah. I just wanted to clarify that. They go past the first year anniversary, which is the hardest. They take you through that to the 13th month. And then if somebody needs counseling past that, then they will usually suggest one-on-one counseling, or they'll give you a referral to another grief support group. And plus then Vaishnava's Care offers grief support group for devotees. So you could always join our group on Facebook. And we have devotees that have been that had a great loss, like of a spouse, let's say, for decades, and they feel that they never properly grieved. Being a devotee in the movement, they weren't given that permission to grieve. So they, now that we offer this, they've joined, and it's doing them a lot of good to go back and actually properly grieve for their loved one. So even if it's years and years later, you can go back and grieve properly in the Association of Devotees on this grief group. So if you know of anybody that lost a loved one, a child, a spouse, a sibling, a parent, anyone, then you can recommend our Vaishnavas Care Grief Group online, and they can go back and re-examine their loss, even from decades before. It's okay.
Mm.
All right. Do you want to continue reading, or would you like somebody else to take over?
I can read for a couple more pages and then give somebody else an opportunity.
Sure, sure. Sounds good.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The task of the bereaved and how we can help. The bereaved need to accept the reality of their loss. Talking with someone who truly cares about his or her grief can help accomplish this. Denial of one's sorrows does not pave the road to a successful grief outcome. Only honest recognition of one's pain can help accomplish this. How can we help? Be patient and listening, and then listen again. Someone who is grieving may repeatedly express the same feelings of disbelief, sadness, frustration, or anger. In such a severe emotional state, verbalization of feelings often requires repetition in order for someone to assimilate his or her sense of loss. As a caregiver, good listening skills can help to unlock a storehouse of grief, which can lead to increased spiritual awareness. If you are accepting of the sense of loss being described, the bereaved will look toward you as a safe zone where the most intimate thoughts can be revealed without fear of being judged.
Yeah, it's very, very important for you as the caregiver or the friend, somebody who the bereaved is coming to. Really, really important to show that you're not judging them at all. And then they'll come back to you. They'll feel safe. Okay. Go ahead, please, Greg.
Similarly, you as the caregiver may require expression of your own loss. Seek the shelter of someone who is your safe zone. You will not be the first caregiver to ever express physical or emotional exhaustion. If you feel guilt or anger, verbalize that as well. Whatever you are feeling is okay. As you have just discovered, caring for a terminally ill person is a responsibility that takes its toll on every part of your being. Hopefully, you will have supportive friends and family who can assist you in processing the magnitude of what you have just experienced. Caregivers require nurturing too. Recognize the need to physically, emotionally, and spiritually regenerate. Caring for my mother in law for almost a year, I mourned with my relatives for some time after her death and then traveled to Vrindavan with my daughter. After a few weeks in the Holy Dham, I felt spiritually rejuvenated and was better able to assist my family when we returned home. The bereaved need to be encouraged to ask for guidance. Often, those who are experiencing a significant loss are not even aware of what they need. Being encouraged to recognize and express what type of help they need from others can assist them in their grieving process as they begin to connect with those who can offer support. In the early stages of grief, practical assistance with everyday tasks may be helpful. Be aware, however, that there can sometimes be a tendency to want to do everything for the one who is mourning. This is not always the best type of assistance, since learning to live without the deceased is a necessary part of the grief process. How can we help? Never assume that what the bereaved need. The only way to know what is needed is to ask. Since those who are grieving can sometimes neglect even their physical needs, encourage proper rest, offer to bring prasad at various times of the day, so those who are mourning do not need to prepare their own meals. This simple act of kindness will convey a strong message of caring. In addition, numerous details at this time can seem overwhelming. Offer to help with funeral arrangements, make phone calls, send emails, or assist with sorting through legal and financial paperwork. Provide transportation if needed. Even the simplest of chores may feel like an effort for those who are grieving. If young children are involved, offer to assist with their care, especially within the first week or so after death. Remember that children need to grieve as well. They need answers to their questions and reinforcement that remaining loved ones will not leave them at a crucial time. When a family member dies, it will naturally affect the way the family functions as a whole. Relationships within the family may shift, adjusting to change in the family structure. Young children and adolescents may mourn for the family that no longer exists. Being
In
an
our, excuse me, Greg Prabhu, in our longer seminar that we have the course online and on our website, and it's the one that I give at the temples. It's like a weekend seminar. We go into how young children grieve according to their child development, according to what age they are and their development. And also how teens grieve according to their development. It's quite interesting, and it's really good to know, because then you can help the children and teenagers in the home of the devotee who's dying. And it's especially helpful when there's one parent left to be a single parent to these children. And because a lot of times you get to understand how young children are feeling about the loss by watching them play. Sometimes if you I majored in child development before I became a nurse, so I understand that you just give a child like a preschool child, let's say, or a kindergarten age child, some art paper, big paper, and some crayons or markers, and you just ask them to draw a picture of their family and see what they do with the one that just died. Okay, a lot of times that parent will be up in the sky, you know, and you say, "Where is mom? Where's mommy? Mommy's back home. Mommy's in heaven," depending if they're Christian or whatever religion they are, or if they're a devotee child and mommy just died, mommy's home with Krishna, so it's interesting to see. And sometimes, a lot of times, you will understand how the child's thinking by what they draw, by their artwork, you know and the teenagers just know that it's easier for teens sometimes to express their grief to an outside person. They won't always express it to the family that's left, okay, not to the parent that's left after the other parent dies. They'll go to a friend's house and talk to their parents, believe it or not, because that's how teenagers run. That's how they handle things a lot of times. It's easier for them to talk to an outside person outside of their family. So just understand that, and then you can explain it to the parent that's left, and because they'll get very upset. Why isn't my son talking to me? Why isn't my daughter revealing to me how she's feeling about this whole situation? Because that's how teenagers are. And a lot of times they will go outside the family to express their grief. So that's important to remember, because you can help to console the parent that they're not speaking to. Okay. All right, go ahead, please, Greg.
Um, Being an empathetic listener is often the best way to assist the bereaved. There is no need to offer advice unless you are asked. Unless it is a necessity, it is recommended that Change of residence be avoided for at least 6 months to a year after the death of a loved one. The stress that accompanies grief often causes difficulty with sound, objective decision making. It, if reasonable, encourage those who are grieving to postpone making major decisions at this time. Independent decision making, beginning with smaller issues, should be encouraged as one progresses in his or her healing.
It's recommended, for example, that the parent who's left or the spouse who's left after the death of the other spouse do not make a major decision within 1 year. Don't all of a sudden pick up and move, 2 months after the death. Wait a year to make a major decision. Don't change your job. Don't change your place of residence. Take a year to settle down and grieve before you make a major decision. That's what that's saying, basically. All right, go ahead, please.
Did anybody else want to read or?
Okay, anybody else?
I'll jump in.
Thank you.
The bereaved need to share their memories. To reminisce is to honor the departed Vaishnava. Sharing memories may give a new perspective to one's loss, as well as to help the bereaved to adjust to a life in which a loved one is no longer present. How can we help? Ask to see photographs or videos. Ask questions about the deceased to encourage a discussion. Recall your own memories and express the difference it made in your life to have known the departed Vaishnava. Take their lead, however. When they are ready, the bereaved will share their memories if that is what is needed for recovery. Discussions such as this should never be forced. They will naturally develop in time. The bereaved need our honesty. It is never easy to console those who are grieving. It is not uncommon to be at a loss for words. Sometimes, if we admit our discomfort and feelings of helplessness to the bereaved, we will feel at ease with the silence that often accompanies their sorrow. How can we help? It is appropriate to say something like, I wish I knew what to say or do to take your pain away. Please know that I am here for you, though. Avoid cliches such as, I know how you feel. Even if we have experienced a similar loss, it is difficult to know exactly how someone else feels. Saying, try to be strong, is of little comfort at this time. Sometimes your quiet presence may be more helpful than anything you can say. Nonverbal messages, such as just holding a hand or a gentle touch on the shoulder, can often communicate a greater sense of caring than any words we can express. The bereaved need continued support. Often within a week or two of the funeral service, friends and family return to their usual routines, leaving the bereaved to cope with their pain alone. We can never measure the depth of someone else's emotional wound. A kind gesture at this time can give a great comfort and ease loneliness. How can we help? Provide a lifeline by letting the bereaved know they can call you at any time. Call them as well. Send a note just to let them know you're thinking about them. Offer to visit. The association of devotees can provide great spiritual strength. Offer to accompany them to a temple for darshan of the deities. Suggest taking quiet walks together. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra together. Offer to read aloud Srila Prabhupada's books. Continue to listen and to reaffirm your support. Provide a nurturing environment to help promote a healthy resolution to the loss. Listen for statements that may indicate the need for permission to stop grieving and to move on with their lives. Rejoicing for the departed Vaishnava. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name around. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Although it is natural to feel continued separation from a loved one, Those who are working through their grief are free to simultaneously search for spiritual meaning to their loss. The transcendental knowledge contained in Srila Prabhupada's books can provide us with the spiritual answers we need to eventually feel at peace with the auspicious departure of the Lord's devotee. Ultimately, engaging in the 9 processes of devotional service, hearing about the Lord, chanting his holy names, remembering the Lord, worshiping the Lord, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with him, and surrendering everything to the Lord as prescribed in Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, can relieve one from the most severe type of material distress. The following instruction from Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion, for example, has comforted me during times of great loss within my own life. Srila Prabhupada writes, in the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 8, it is said, quote, my dear Lord, any person who is constantly awaiting your causeless mercy to be bestowed upon him, and who goes on suffering the resultant actions of his past misdeeds, offering you respectful obeisances from the core of his heart, is surely eligible to become liberated, for it has become his rightful claim. End quote. This statement of Srimad Bhagavatam should be the guide of all devotees. A devotee should not expect immediate relief from the reactions of his past misdeeds. A devotee who is not perfectly freed from the resultant actions should therefore continue to act in Krishna consciousness seriously, even though there may be so many impediments. When such impediments arise, he should simply think of Krishna and expect his mercy. That is the only solace. If the devotee passes his days in this spirit, it is certain that he is going to be promoted to the abode of the Lord. By such activities, he earns his claim to enter into the kingdom of God. Indeed, the healing words of a pure devotee of the Lord can soothe one's turbulent mind and steady one's wavering faith. Would anybody else like to read?
I can read if nobody wants to. Taravali, is that okay? Anybody else raising their hand?
I don't see anyone at this moment.
Okay.
You can continue, Mataji, if you like.
I think.
Additional quotations from Srila
Okay.
Prabhupada. When the bereaved are receptive to hearing them, the following are some quotations from Srila Prabhupada's books that can uplift one from a distraught position to one of spiritual understanding. Srila Prabhupada's writings can console one who is grieving any type of loss within this material world, what to speak of easing one's separation from a beloved Vaishnava who has departed from this world. And in due course of time, when a pure devotee is completely prepared, all of a sudden the change of body occurs, which is commonly called death. And for the pure devotee, such a change takes place exactly like lightning, and illumination follows simultaneously. That is to say, a devotee simultaneously changes his material body and develops a spiritual body by the will of the Supreme. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:6-27. The preliminary instruction in the Bhagavad Gita is that one should know that the identity of the individual living entity is not lost even after the end of this present body, which is nothing but an outward dress only. As one changes an old garment, so the individual living being also changes his body. And this change of body is called death. Death is therefore a process of changing the body at the end of the duration of the present life. An intelligent person must be prepared for this and must try to have the best type of body in the next life. The best type of body is a spiritual body, which is obtained by those who go back to the kingdom of God or enter the realm of Brahman. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:1-15. If one can remember Krishna at death, he is immediately transferred to Goloka Vrindavan or Krishna Loka, and thus his life becomes successful. Srimad Bhagavatam 4:23-13. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 8.5, Anta kale chamam eva smaram mukta kale varam ya prayati samad bhavyam yati nasti ata samsaya. Whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Of course, one must practice before one is overcome by death, but the perfect yogi, namely the devotee, dies in trance thinking of Krishna. He does not feel his material body being separated from his soul. The soul is immediately transferred to the spiritual world. Jaktva deham purna janma naiti mam iti. The soul does not enter the womb of a material mother again, but is transferred back home, back to Godhead. The bhakti yogi always thinks of Krishna, and therefore at the time of death, he can very easily transfer himself to Krishna Loka without even perceiving the pains of death. Srimad Bhagavatam 6, 10, 12. Sangeeta, do you want to finish? My throat
Uh,
is out.
do you want me to? If
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. What are we up to? The Padma Purana also mentions.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Padma Purana also mentions a person whose body is decorated with the pulp of sandalwood with paintings of the holy name of the Lord is delivered from all sinful reactions, and after his death he goes directly to Krishna Loka to live in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nectar of devotion. Even if devotees are illusioned by some ghastly scene or by any accidental occurrence, they never forget Krishna. Even in the greatest danger, they can remember Krishna. This is the benefit of Krishna consciousness, even at the time of death. When all the functions of the body become dislocated, the devotee can remember Krishna in his innermost consciousness, and this saves him from falling down into material existence. In this way, Krishna consciousness immediately takes one from the material platform to the spiritual world, nectar of devotion. Some way or other, if someone establishes in his mind his continuous relationship with Krishna, this relationship is called remembrance. About this remembrance, there is a nice statement in the Vishnu Purana where it is said, simply by remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all living entities become eligible for all kinds of auspiciousness. Therefore, let me always remember the Lord who is unborn and eternal. In the Padma Purana, the same remembrance is explained as follows. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, because if someone remembers him, either at the time of death or during his span of life, he becomes freed from all sinful reactions. Nectar of devotion. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental abode of the Supreme Lord. To remember Krishna, one should chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, incessantly following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, being more tolerant than the tree, humbler than the grass, and offering all respect to others without requiring respect in return. In such a way, one will be able to depart from the body successfully, remembering Krishna, and so attain the supreme goal. Bhagavad Gita 8:5. By chanting Krishna's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, without a doubt. Bhagavad Gita 8:7. To a devotee who is thus engaged in Krishna consciousness, the Lord is very, very kind. In spite of all difficulties, he is eventually placed in the transcendental abode or Krishna Loka. He is guaranteed entrance there. There is no doubt about it. In that supreme abode, there is no change. Everything is eternal, imperishable, and full of knowledge. Bhagavad Gita 1856. After the death of his dear disciple, Jayananda Das, Srila Prabhupada wrote the following letter on May 5th, 1977. My dear Jayananda, excuse me, please accept my blessings. I am feeling very intensely your separation. In 1967, you joined me in San Francisco. You were driving my car and chanting Hare Krishna. You were the first man to give me some contribution, $5,000, for printing my Bhagavad Gita. After that, you have rendered very favorable service to Krishna in different ways. I so hope at the time of your death you were remembering Krishna, and as such, you have been promoted to the eternal association of Krishna. If not, if you had any tinge of material desire, you have gone to the celestial kingdom to live with the demigods for many thousands of years and enjoy the most opulent life of material existence. From there, you can promote yourself to the spiritual world. But even if one fails to promote oneself to the spiritual world, at that time he comes down again on the surface of this globe and takes birth in a big family like yogis or Brahmins, or an aristocratic family where there is again a chance of reviving Krishna consciousness. But if you were hearing Krishna Kirtan, I am sure that you were directly promoted to Krishna Loka. Krishna has done a great favor to you not to continue your diseased body and has given you a suitable place for your service. Thank you very much, your ever well wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Concluding words. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Bhagavad Gita 7:19. One who lives in the association of the Lord's devotees is most fortunate, but one who truly appreciates that association has a blessed life. Out of billions of people on this earth, only a tiny percentage know Krishna to be God, and out of those, only a handful recognize Srila Prabhupada's contribution to the world by bringing Krishna consciousness to the West. Every soul who comes to our Krishna consciousness movement is precious. As a society of devotees engaged in the service of His divine grace, we need to care for one another in every stage of life. Since there is no time more important to a Vaishnava than the moment of death, a devotee should not have to spend his or her final days alone in a hospital or nursing home without the association of other Vaishnavas. Certainly, a special soul who has given so much of his or her life to the Lord deserves to be given the holy names when dying. My hope is that I have conveyed this message within the pages of this book and in some small way inspired its readers to assist others with the final journey back home, back to Godhead.
Sangeeta, please know that you have. You've done that in this book. So thank you.
Who is this speaking, can I ask?
It's Shalagram.
Oh, Shalagram, thank you so much. That means so much to me. Thank you. And thank you for participating in this reading to everyone. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And, okay, so Appendix A, we're not going to read this because it's more like a guideline, but just know that it's in the book. Appendix A is from my godbrother Dinabandhu Prabhu, who lives in Vrindavan. And he tells how to place the cremation ashes of a Vaishnava in the Jamuna River in Vrindavan. And then Appendix D is how to place the ashes of a Vaishnava in the Ganges River. And that was told by Janani Vas Prabhu. Okay, the head Pujari in Mayapur, how to place them in the Ganges. So And then there's an appendix C, the procedure for a Shraddha ceremony. So all of that is in here, and please use the instructions because all of Prabhupada's disciples are leaving one by one by one by one after the other. And we don't know how long we'll have the Prabhupada disciples here to guide us in this way. So that's why I'm so grateful to Dinabandhu Prabhu and Janani Vas Prabhu for leaving this information in the back of this book. Okay. So thank you to everyone, and thank you for Tiravali doing this every week, because when she first mentioned this idea of a reading club for my book, I actually said to her, nobody's going to want to do this.
Oh,
And nobody's going to want to read my book.
Yeah,
So,
it was actually Kandarpika who mentioned this idea. They do it quite regularly in South America. They finish the book and then they start another group. They start
really, and
again.
so they have it translated into Spanish, and I don't know when BBT Latin America is going to print it, but I think that's the plan. And then Tiravali's organizing, it's in the middle of being translated into Russian, so it will one day be printed into Russian for the devotees, at the request of Bibi Govinda Swami, actually. He wants his disciples to have the book in Russian. So thank you to everybody. When I wrote this book so many years ago, I never thought it would even be read, believe it or not. But thank you so much for all of this.
Well, thank
And
you for providing this wonderful service. And I don't know about everybody else, but we're all going to miss you. We're going to be missing these Sunday talks and the reading.
oh, well, I really appreciate that. Maybe we can come up with some other kind of
John.
circle, some kind of Sunday meeting we can come up with, that we can discuss, because it's such an important topic, and especially nowadays, we're just losing one devotee after the other, and we really need to know what to do and how to do it and how to I'm just finishing up another webinar because we plan on doing them every few months this year. So the first webinar, which is recorded and Taravali has it posted, so anybody can watch it at any time. But that first webinar for the year was uh, what what is it, Taravali? What not to say to dying devotees? What not to
What not to
say.
say to a grieving devotee.
Oh, grieving devotee, that's right. What not to say to a grieving devotee, because sometimes even after 30 years of doing this service, I put my foot in my mouth, so we all tend to say things sometimes that's wrong. So the first webinar had a good turnout. We had devotees from 30 countries, and some good feedback that it really helped them on what not to say when somebody's grieving a loss. And now the second webinar will be on what did I call it? We may change it a little, but it'll basically be on how to communicate with dying devotees. So what to say. And it's not as easy as you think, because every devotee is at a different space, spiritually, materially, emotionally, mentally. And they're all going through some anticipatory grief. The family's on a different level with that. The family is thinking, how's my life going to go on without this person in it? And what do we say to that person? What do we say to the relatives? What do we say to the close friends? And we know that in Krishna consciousness, sometimes our friends are closer to us than family. Most of my relatives have already died on my side, but my husband comes from a huge family, and I'm closer to devotees than I am to the family. And it's just the way it is. I spend more time with the devotees, you know. I'm always with the devotees. We do so much together and we go through so much together. So in a lot of ways, they're closer to me than the family is. So, you know, and what do we say to them? How do we communicate to them when they're told they only have some months to live? So that's what this next webinar is going to be about. Okay, so we'll advertise it and let you know when it's going to be within the next couple of months. I think May or June
Yeah, I
will be,
think we're talking about mid-June.
yeah, mid-June. Okay,
I just did this nice comment from Shama Manjari Mataji. I just want to read it out loud. Hare Krishna. Your Grace Sangeeta Mataji, for this jewel of a book. You have really given us a gift to guide devotees at a very important time in their lives. May you always be blessed. Wishing you excellent health always. Your servant Shama Manjari Mataji. Devidasi Haribol.
thank you so much. That's a gift. That's a gift.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
And
Really.
I hope if it's okay with you, Sangeeta Mataji, and others, maybe we can finish off this reading on like a last Q&A session next week. Maybe
Yeah,
if it's okay with everyone.
if people have questions, I'm here, you know, that would be fine.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Hey, Revati, Harry Paul.
I'm not sure why, but my computer froze. Oh,
Oh, no. Does
yeah.
that mean, are we out of touch now?
But I'm not. Anyways, like I just for some reason my mouse is not working and it's not moving. Anyways.
I have 8 participants, 2 chats, 2. Oh, thank you, Shamanjari. Thank you so much. That is such a sweet message. If you
Yeah.
can hear me, thank you.
Oh, I'm back. Yeah. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you everyone very, very much, especially to those devotees who have committed to this every week or every other week. It's a big deal. We started, I think, in September, I believe. So
Yeah,
it's been a few months. And
it's it's been quite a long bunch of months. So,
and
a bunch of months. So thank you so much.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
we'll come up with something like that again, or maybe we'll start the reading again for those who weren't able to join. We'll see. It's a big commitment. But
yeah.
thank you again, everyone, and hopefully see you next week for the last session. Yeah?
Yes.
Hi.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Thank
Krishna.
you.
All
Have
Hare
a
glories to
Krishna.
Srila
great week.
Prabhupada.
Have a great week. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and his
Haribol,
beloved
Haribol,
devotees.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Haribol.
Haribol.
Hare
Have a good
Krishna.
week. Be
Haribo.
be safe.
Jai. Hare Krishna, Greg Prabhu. Haribo,
Hare
everybody.
Krishna.
Haribol.